Hello everyone, this is kori-maru, and I'm back with another video to discuss my wishlist of the top SEGA Saturn games I would love to see in a potential SEGA Saturn Mini, if SEGA decides to manufacture such a product in the near future. Before we start, let me tell you a little story about my experience with the console as a SEGA fan. My memories of the SEGA Saturn when I was a kid were quite enjoyable. As a youth, my uncle owned a SEGA Saturn console where my cousins and I would play some of his popular titles such as Virtua Cop, Virtua Fighter 2, Sonic R, and Nights into Dreams. I was blown away at how the SEGA Saturn could handle 3D polygon graphics, which was very revolutionary at the time, and I enjoyed playing the SEGA Saturn so much that it got to the point when I was on a winning streak against my cousins in Virtua Fighter 2 as Jackie Bryant.
No way you can stop me!
Our time with the SEGA Saturn was cut short, however, due to us being too young and my uncle was concerned that we were going to break the console. So as the next few years passed around the time after the Dreamcast launched in 1999, I happened to receive my own SEGA Saturn from my dad, loaded with games, mostly Virtua Fighter and its spin-offs at the time. Then the next few years, when I attended too many games with SEGA Bits to help host a panel, I spent my hard-earned money on more SEGA Saturn games and accessories. And let me tell you, it was worth it. While the SEGA Saturn failed to make its mark in North America and Europe, it did find success in Japan, and in my personal opinion, the underappreciated console did lay the foundation of launching some of SEGA's iconic classic IPs. In the recent official Mega Drive Mini 2 stream hosted by SEGA, SEGA revealed poll results of the Mega Drive Mini 2 questionnaire from Japanese players on not only voting for their favorite games on the Mega Drive and Genesis Mini 2, but also revealing what SEGA Mini console they would like to see next. The results were shown with the SEGA Saturn being on top with 88% of recipients to be the next console to receive the Mini treatment, while the SEGA Dreamcast came in second with 79% and the third Mega Drive Mini earning 69%. Sorry 32X, maybe next time. While I know many people in the Western SEGA community would love to see a Dreamcast Mini, I think the Saturn deserves more attention and respect for what it accomplished in terms of unique games that launch on the system, especially from Japan. If we were to see a SEGA Saturn Mini in the future, here are my top 10 Saturn games I would personally love to see and play again. Number 10. Guardian Heroes. A 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up combined with RPG elements, Guardian Heroes was developed by Treasure, the same developer behind hits such as Gunstar Heroes and Dynamite Deca for the Sega Genesis and Mega Drive. It was known as a fighting RPG by the development team and re-released as an Xbox Live Arcade title on October 12, 2011. I think Guardian Heroes would be a good pick for the SEGA Saturn Mini due to its cult following status amongst the SEGA fans. The game allows players to alter the storyline based on their actions, whether it's choosing a path or killing a character, which can lead to different endings, bosses, and levels. The best part of the game is its multiplayer feature. You can play with a friend in 2-player mode and story mode with 4 characters to choose from and increase their stats as you both progress by the end of the level. For Versus mode, the original SEGA Saturn version allowed 6 players to play against each other in an all-out brawl with the use of the SEGA Saturn 6-player adapter. If SEGA could make a 6-player replica for the Saturn Mini, you bet your ass I will use the undead hero to go out with a bang. Number 9. Panzer Dragoon. I'll be honest here, I was not able to play the original Panzer Dragoon on the SEGA Saturn back in the day until I got my hands on a recent remake developed by Megapixel Studio, with publishing being handled by Forever Entertainment, and I actually enjoyed playing it after a few patches were released for the game. I think it's very necessary to include this title as it's one of the best SEGA Saturn games of all time for the console, including its sequel, Zool, and the RPG spin-off, Saga, due to emphasizing their art design, visual, sound design, and atmospheric setting. Developed by Team Andromeda, Panzer Dragoon is a rail shooting game where you play as Kel Fleur, a hunter who rides a blue dragon on a mission to stop the Dark Dragon from reactivating an ancient age ruin of tremendous destructive power. What makes this rail shooter unique is the ability to lock on to enemies with targeting reticle with a choice of using of the 2 main attacks, a lock-on homing laser or a rapid fire gun, and a camera that can be rotated by 90-degree increments to face enemies attacking from all directions with the left and right. As a fan of arcade rail shooting games, Panzer Dragoon is a must-have for the SEGA Saturn Mini. Number 8. Sonic R. Now you can't have a Sega collection without a Sonic game, can you? Sonic R is a fun little racing game made by Traveler's Tales with the guidance provided by Sonic Team, where you can select Sonic and his friends as they race around colorful racetracks to victory. You can play the single player Grand Prix mode alone with items you can collect on the racetrack, such as collecting Chaos Emeralds and tokens to unlock more characters, or with friends in 2-player mode by racing against each other or collect the most balloons for a fun competition. Can't forget to mention the awesome vocal tracks performed by TJ Davis and composed by Richard Jacques. And let me tell you guys, TJ Davis' voice alone brings this game to life. Since it seems that Sonic Origins Plus won't be including this racing gem in its collection, Sega should consider re-releasing this game on the Saturn Mini. Number 7. No Streets of Rage for the Sega Saturn? No worries, Sega has you covered with another beat 'em up called Dynamite Deca, also known as Die Hard Arcade in the US, because you know. Dynamite Deca is a fun arcade style beat 'em up made by Makoto Uchida, the man behind Golden Axe and Alter Beast. The game originally ran on the Sega Titan video arcade hardware, which also has similar specs as the Sega Saturn. You and a friend play as Bruno Mr. Dynamite Dillinger, a clumsy San Francisco police detective who looks like you know who, known for his destructible habits in catching criminals, and his partner Cindy Holiday as they must infiltrate the building filled with thugs to save the president's daughter Caroline from the clutches of Wolf Hongo. As I mentioned before, Dynamite Deca is a very fun game to play with a friend where you can take down enemies together. If Sega has an issue with licensing the Die Hard arcade name for the Western release of the Saturn Mini, they can always port over the Japanese version instead. Number 6.
Virtua Cop 2.
One of AM2 classic 3D arcade games, Virtua Cop 2 is one of my favorite railgun shooting games in the trilogy, with intense action and gameplay flow despite the weaker graphics compared to the arcade version. It does however have some cool unlockable modes depending on certain conditions met, and a new route called Saturn Way in File 3, exclusive to the console release. The only issue I think fans will be concerned about playing this game properly is the lack of a light gun peripheral. There's always an option to play the game with a gamepad controller, but I know arcade goers would prefer to play Virtua Cop 2 as it was meant to be played. I wonder if Sega could make a light gun accessory that's compatible with high definition TVs for the Saturn Mini. Number 5. Burning Rangers. One of Sonic Team's rarest action games definitely deserves a spot for the Saturn Mini. In Burning Rangers, you control a group of futuristic firefighters who must save civilians from disaster and protect them from monstrous experiments. Although Burning Rangers is a short game that can be finished in an hour or so, I had a blast playing this game over and over again, as the game offers high replay value by allowing you to play as different characters via password after you finish the game and receiving letters from civilians you rescued during the game. The only way you can play Burning Rangers these days is either on an actual Sega Saturn console or an emulation. Right now, retro games are getting pretty expensive, and Sega should look into porting Burning Rangers on the Sega Saturn Mini. Number 4. Nights into Dreams. Another classic from Sonic Team, Nights into Dreams is seen as a cult classic among fans and has been a flagship title for Sega during the Saturn era. You can play as either Claris or Elliot, the two children who reside in the city of Twin Seeds, as they team up with Knights to save Nightopia from the evil Wiseman and his henchmen known as Nightmarians. The objective of this flying action game is to fly through rings and items to build up score and collect stolen orbs known as Idia by destroying the Idia capture by gathering a certain amount of blue chips and take them back to the Idia Palace to progress to the next level. This is another game on the Sega Saturn I grew up with and loved playing as a kid. While you can play this game on modern consoles, the Saturn version has an exclusive 2-player mode where you and a friend can go up against each other as either Knights or Riella. Including Nights into Dreams on the Sega Saturn Mini is a no-brainer, and Sega might as well include the Saturn versions of Christmas Nights for many people to try out Sonic into Dreams. Number 3. Virtua Fighter 2. This pick is a no-brainer for me, as Virtua Fighter 2 happens to be the first 3D fighting game I've ever played as a kid. Always kicking ass with Jackie Bryant and learning every character to improve my fighting skills. Virtua Fighter 2 is considered one of the best Sega Saturn games in Japan and other regions due to its texturized graphics, frame rate running at 60 frames per second, and gameplay. The motion capture of several martial arts techniques for Virtua Fighter 2 was revolutionary thanks to Yu Suzuki, who wanted to add a sense of reality to each of the characters' motions. SEGA, if you're watching this video, please give us a USB enabled virtual stick. I'd buy it in a heartbeat. Number 2. Fighters Megamix. I gotta give my father some praise for gifting me his SEGA Saturn for my birthday because I love this fighting game to death. I consider Fighters Megamix as my all-time favorite SEGA fighting game as it combines the cast of Virtua Fighter 2, Fighting Vipers, and other SEGA AM2 properties in one big fighting festival, which was going to be the game's original title. What makes this game so fun and unique is its high replay value by unlocking all characters through 8 courses based on themes in one-player mode. I always wanted SEGA to release this game in high definition, but I am completely fine with the original Saturn graphics, and it would be totally fun to host a Fighters Megamix tournament with friends. Now before we get to the number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions.
Round 2, fight! もう終わりかい?
Round 2. Get ready.
Number 1. My number 1 pick of the SEGA Saturn game that should be included in the Saturn Mini is none other than Sakura Wars, the dramatic adventure that combines elements of a dating sim and turn-based tactical strategy with its setting taking place in the Taicho era of Japan, where you play as Ichiro Ogami, leader of the Flower Division's Imperial Assault Force, who leads a group of young maidens into battle with steam-powered mechs known as the Kobu to protect the Imperial capital from demons while also maintaining a strong bond with the group, with choices to make with the lift system, which will change certain aspects in the story. What I like about Sakura Wars is its strong characterization with the cast and the story filled with laughs, drama, and action as if we were watching a good anime in the 90s. I like the turn-based strategy gameplay as it reminded me of Shining Force on the Sega Genesis, but a little more tamer as you don't have to grind to level up your team. Instead, you build up a strong relationship with them in adventure mode based on the choices you make that will help them perform better in battle. Each character also has their own unique abilities that ranges from close attacks, range, and defensive maneuvers. For example, Sakura can destroy a line of enemies with a spiritual blast attack, and Iris can heal the team with her psychic abilities, with John Paul by her side. I was first exposed to the series when I owned one of the English dub OVAs by ADV Films from back in the day, and after playing all 5 main titles including the latest game for PlayStation 4, I see why Sakura Wars was so popular in Japan compared to Sonic in North America and Europe. Unfortunately, Sakura Wars had a small exposure in the West until Sakura Wars So Long My Love was released in 2005 for PlayStation 2 and Wii, along with the latest one, New Sakura Wars, in 2019. Up till now to this point, fans have been creating English fan translation projects to give people the chance to play some of the games, and the support of the series still continues to this day. This could possibly be a great way to not only port this game to a potential Saturn Mini console, but localize in English too if Sega play their cards right with marketing and budget. Oh, and port the other 2 games as well. And that's my top 10 Sega Saturn games I would like to see on the Saturn Mini. If you have a list of games you would like to play on the Saturn Mini, feel free to leave your list in the comments below, and be sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel for more Sega content. Until then, see you all next time.